So I haven't been consistently doing gesture drawings for years now, because of university first, then my job, and then burnout. But now, knowing how important gesture drawing is, I want to go back and practice. So let's see where I left off. So in this practice session, I will set the time limit to 30 seconds for each pose. It might seem tight, and it really is, but only in this way I can focus on what's important in gesture drawing and leave out all the rest. So let's do it. And you are more than welcome to follow along. Actually, following along with other artists that were practicing helped me so much to improve back in the day. So this is the very first pose. It didn't turn out super well, but still it was a nice warm-up. I did simplify the torso to just 2 curved lines, but I had a very hard time with the legs. Especially the screen right leg was a mess, because I have a really hard time to simplify the foreshortening. So if a limb, for example, comes towards us, so you have all this perspective going on. Also for this arm, I would have used another type of curve in the other direction. And also I would have used a bit more twist in the torso. But let's go to the second pose. So this one was a little bit better, but still feeling a bit rusty on these. Five lines in total for the torso, and a couple for each leg. One thing that I really liked about this pose is the kind of contrast between the right side and the left side of the torso, where you have a stretch and compression on the other side. So this was the third pose, a bit of a walking, running pose. Even here, squash and stretch on the 2 sides of the torso. They create a nice contrast between the 2 sides. Just simple lines for the limbs, the legs, the arms. You can see the stretch and the compression. Maybe I was a bit wrong about the proportion on this. I think that I drew the gesture of the legs a bit too short compared to the torso especially. But that's fine, proportion are not a big deal in this phase. Nice dynamic pose. I tried to simplify the gesture of the torso especially. But I wasn't very successful on the legs for this. For the leg that is supporting the weight, I used 2 C-shaped curve lines, but they don't work super well. They are a bit symmetrical and static. For this leg right here, I drew kind of a closing shape, but it wasn't very successful. Okay, this pose felt very compressed, but it has a nice story to it, so I really liked it. Basically, this fighter here trying to defend, so the arm that is defending is kind of the main story point of the entire pose. So right after drawing the head, I went for the arm. Simple lines again for the limbs. I noticed that this pose, my gesture drawing was a bit out of balance, so I would have moved the supporting leg a bit outside. But anyways. Another pose here. One simple line for the line of the shoulder and the arm. Again, compression and extension on the torso. A zigzag line for the supporting leg. And a more relaxed curve line for the relaxed leg. I have to be mindful of my drawing surface. I always go outside of the drawing surface for some reason. And I don't know about this arm right here, maybe I simplified too much. I just used an ellipsis for the end. Another pose more tense. Here I would have moved the screen left leg a bit outside to support better the weight and have a more balanced kind of gesture drawing. And also I would have used a straight line for this arm right here. Okay, next pose. And by the way, all these poses are from Line of Action, which is a website that I really recommend to do some figure drawing, gesture drawing practice. In this pose too, you have a bit of compression and extension in the torso and two very long, very simple lines for the legs. What I really liked about this gesture drawing in particular is that I really exaggerated the thrust of the hips. So I really pushed them, which is nice. You always have to exaggerate. And also I like all this contrapposto that is going on and creating this contrast between the extension and the compression of the torso. This was a pretty weird pose. For the torso I just used one line. For the arms, 4 lines in total. And for the legs too. This is a way more relaxed kind of figure, so what's really important here is to catch that C-shape, super long line from the neck to the feet. Here I got the proportion of this arm pretty wrong, especially the upper arm is too short, and I should have exaggerated this pose way more. My version of it is a bit toned down. Okay, next pose, this one with the rope. Never go over the same line 2 times, like in this case. Here I would have pushed a bit the C-shape line of action for this figure. Very tense pose, this one. A good thing that I did here was to exaggerate the line of the shoulders to make it more angled, and with this I made the story of the pose more clear, more strong. You can see the difference here. This pose was pretty fun, and I used some opposing curve lines that went through the body, and I did manage to push the line of action for this one. Two simple lines for the arms. The only problem is that it didn't fit in my sketchbook, which often happens to me. Okay, this pose was probably the least successful of this batch. Especially the torso was so difficult to render with some simple lines. But even in this case, I should have pushed the line of action. Yeah, the final result is not very clear. Okay, on to the next one. Here I did manage to push the line of action of the torso a bit better. But I had an hard time with the other leg that is hiding between the first one. So the final result feels a bit out of balance without that other leg, and it's not very clear what's happening. Ooh, I really love this one. This one, I think, in my opinion, was the best that I did in this practice session. It just felt natural. I mean, for my current level at least. Was pretty happy with this one, so I gave myself a thumbs up. At this point, especially with the past gesture drawing, I was a bit more confident. This pose turned out fine, I think. I just should have pushed a little bit more towards the screen right. I should have pushed the torso, the legs. This was another pretty weird pose, and here, even if the torso is covered, you can feel the extension on one side and the compression on the other. Like this. Not too bad, just the proportion. The torso is way too long and the upper leg is way too short. But again, proportions are not essential in gesto drawing. For this one, I decided to simplify and push the torso with a one long curve line. And even for the arm, where you see all these bumps and details, Just one line is enough. Okay, this one is a pretty tense pose, but the principle is the same. Just simplify the limbs and the torso in the fewest amount of lines possible. You can see 2 lines for each leg, and I used one single line for the arm. And I really push the tilt of the head. Just maybe the proportions are not 100% right, but that's fine. Okay, this is the last pose of this session. Another time, stretch on one side of the torso and compression on the other side of the torso. 4 lines in total for the legs. And that's it. So this is the result of my practice session. It was way harder than I thought. I was a lot more comfortable back in the day when I used to do this on a regular basis. And I definitely lost a bit of confidence in all those years of not drawing. I think my gesture drawings turned out pretty okay, but I will let you judge. So if you have any thoughts on these, please leave them in the comments below. And what about you? Did you manage to follow along? How did it go for you? I mean, I will do a lot more of these in the future. I really need to improve. But I really hope it was helpful for you in some way. So my final recommendations are: forget about the contour, you're not copying the contour. Forget about the details. Use long lines that will make you avoid details, straight, curved lines, and focus on the story, on the energy, on the movement of the pose. But more importantly than all of this is enjoy the process, have fun, enjoy the journey. And if you want to know more about gesture drawings, watch this video right here and subscribe if you want to follow me in my art journey. And I will see you on my next step.